Dudes to Dads, brought to you by Dad University, is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We are back.
I am Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads.
Dudes to Dads.
Episode 153.
I think it's from this point on, I'm still going to be amazed every time we go to a new episode.
It is. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
A lot of content.
Today's topic, are you aware of what you are feeding your child? Does that make
kind
sense?
Of cryptic. Yeah. Are you aware of it?
Well, I went through a couple different iterations of that possible title. And part of this is I just recently did a video on Dad University about this stuff. And it lended itself to a podcast as well.
Cool.
I thought we could, because we can talk a little deeper about each item.
And nutrition's a big thing. You know what I mean? I think for adults and children, especially children, though. Because you see kids eating like...
Yeah, and we've gone over the fitness tips for adults and all that. This is specifically for the children. And a couple of things that you're going to want to make sure that they're having. And maybe a couple things that they're not having.
Right.
And I also wanted to introduce that we have a sponsor for today's, we have, well, that's for the video.
Yeah.
Smarty Pants Vitamins.
Smarty Pants Vitamins. So, is this our first sponsor?
It is. It is.
That's cool.
These guys are really cool, and the product is really good.
Cool.
This is actually the adult one, so I've been taking these.
Okay. You feel better? More better? I'm not good at grammar.
Well, they taste really darn good.
Do they really?
Yeah.
You can go overboard with it.
No, there's... so gluten-free, because if you don't know it, gummies, especially like, the famous types of gummies and things like that, often have gluten in them. Yeah. And for people who are gluten intolerant or and I try to avoid it. I don't have an intolerance per se, but I just try to avoid it for health reasons.
One of my vegan friends wouldn't eat peanuts unless he read the back of the peanuts because they have a certain amount of like horse hoof.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that people have. So these are non-GMO, gluten-free. They've got a bunch of vitamins and minerals. Getting your kids, and we're going to talk about this and like why they're integrated into what we're doing, and it makes sense. Omega-3 fish oil, vitamin D, vitamin B12, etc. So they're available at Target, Whole Foods, Walgreens, Amazon, etc. They're a pretty widely distributed brand. I mean, they've got some pretty good reach. That's cool. So once again, Smarty Pants Vitamins, we appreciate that.
Are they at smartypants.com?
It is Smarty Health. I will put the link
in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes.
Cool.
So as I said, because I did a YouTube video about this, and we often think that we're feeding our kids and both the food and the drinks that they're consuming, we think that they're healthy.
Sure.
And the reality is that they're often not. Unless you're somebody who's really reading the labels and conscious of what's going on. Even people that really think that they're feeding their kids healthy stuff might not be.
Right.
So there's a lot of different schools of thought on nutrition, obviously, and different perspectives. There's different diets. There's all this kind of stuff. But there's really, one thing I know that people agree on, doctors, nutritionists, et cetera, is that nobody thinks that regular white table sugar is healthy for you.
Right.
Nobody's like, yeah, no, that's good stuff. It probably, it tastes great. Our body craves it, but it's not good for you in the long term. So that was one of the things too I wanted to just touch on, because sugar to me is the enemy. In almost all of these instances of child nutrition and everything else, they speak about sugar because children just they eat a lot of sugar.
Yeah. And we're talking about sugar that is in other foods. Like it's pretty much seeps its way into...
It's into everything.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And even things that you don't know and you think that are healthy. I'll give you an example. Yogurt.
Right.
Most yogurts are absolutely packed with sugar.
Right.
So even when you think, oh, my kid's eating a yogurt, like if you're not looking at what that is, I mean, that's 20, 30 grams of sugar in a yogurt.
Yeah.
It's like drinking a soda,
Yeah.
So here's some interesting numbers. I don't know if you knew this. I did not know it was this bad, but according to the Harvard School of Public Health, the average person consumes 22 teaspoons of sugar per day.
Oh,
that is a lot of sugar.
Seems like a lot.
It is a lot. So, because I'm going to tell you the equivalent here of the size of the sugar. So, according to the American Heart Association, children ages 2 to 18 should eat or drink less than 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day. Okay. So that's for children. That's 6 a day. Adults are actually consuming 22.
Right.
I don't know exactly how much children are consuming. I'm guessing it's pretty close. So 6 teaspoons of added sugar is equivalent to about 100 calories or 25 grams of sugar. So now let me give you some little thought here. A soft drink is sometimes double that.
Ugh.
So one soft drink is like, double the daily allowance for a child.
Like a Coke or a Pepsi or something like that.
Is double the allowance. A Gatorade. I was just talking to somebody that had a granola bar. Common granola bar.
Yeah.
It was 20 grams of sugar.
Dude, and they put chocolate chips in it.
Right.
Can you believe it?
It tastes good.
I know, but like, what the hell are you doing? How does that pass as health food?
I don't know.
Trail mix, especially, was like pieces of.
Yeah, with M&Ms
when I'm on a trail, I don't see an M&M plant.
Right. But that's the problem. So we think that we're feeding our kids these healthy foods and these drinks, and it's not. It's crazy. Like really, we're to the point now where it's crazy. And so I've put together 5 things that your kids should be having.
Okay.
Because I like to should on everybody to be healthy and grow, like to keep them going and keep them healthy.
Sure.
So here's the number 1.
Okay.
Water. I know, Captain Obvious.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little obvious there, but that makes sense.
Well,
and consume more water.
So stop. We have a huge epidemic in this country, and it's called juice. Okay? I don't know how many young kids you're around, but parents think that it's totally acceptable to give their children juice as if it's water.
Right.
So I don't care if it's apple, orange, grape, whatever.
Yeah.
It's sugar. Okay? There's so much sugar in it. Now, a lot of parents, well, I buy the organic or I buy the light version. It's still a ton of sugar.
Yeah.
You're looking at it from a per serving. It's probably the daily allowance in one small little thing of sugar. Wow. Or, I mean, one small thing of juice.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that. So the fact is they say, well, Timmy doesn't drink water. He loves juice. Too bad. I mean, I'm kind of saying,
no, I agree.
Stop giving him the juice. Guess what? Eventually he'll get thirsty and he'll drink some water.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand this whole logic of, hey, well, you don't like it, so they're not going to. All right, well, they're not going to drink then, I guess, because,
because parents are soft.
Yeah.
I've been,
No, I don't mind giving in once in a while and giving treats, and that's fine, and a little bit of juice here and there is good, but like.
No, it's not.
But, well, I'm saying, like,
it's a good treat, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, but drink water. Like, I don't understand why that's so hard.
Well, it is. And you see it all the time and you see it everywhere. And I mean, it's really like juice is essentially a dessert. Mm-hmm. It is the equivalent in many cases of the same amount of sugar. And for children, I'm not saying you have to completely eliminate sugar, but you've got to reduce it.
Right.
And it's all, I think, proportionate to how active the children are.
Sure.
For people who are extremely active, for children that are like participating in sports and sweating and running around. Sugar is still not good for your teeth and everything else, but it's not as bad because of the relativity of how much activity you're doing.
Right.
But for a child that is not very active, it's horrible. Because it's just going to sit there.
Right.
It's not getting burnt. And the reality is like white, sugar is not getting burned very well.
Sure.
All right. And I'm not a nutritionist to that extent. But.
I won't harp on this too much, but the juice thing, I keep hearing this too on different podcasts and like how juice is the enemy. Right. And it's like, if it's 100% fruit juice, it's not table sugar. It's natural sugars. So
Correct.
Yeah, there's sugar in it, but there's natural sugars your body actually needs that comes from fruit and vegetables.
So we'll talk about that.
So and yeah, I won't harp on it too much, but like, yeah, when you have added sweeteners and all that stuff, I get it. But when people are like, juice is like that.
But here's the deal.
We grew up on juice.
Fruit is good, and we're going to talk about that. But excess fruit is not.
No, I get that. But again, you're drinking your allowance of it, and that's what it is. It's a concentrated version of what you normally eat in an orange.
Sure, but what percentage of people do you think are having 100% fruit juice?
Agree with you 100%.
And not having other things.
Totally
because they're having soda, they're having. I mean, I for as an example, I go on these campouts with my children. I'm seeing what the kids are drinking.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you have to try to police your child, and everybody else is. I mean, from the Gatorades to the Power something to the soda to the. I mean, it's amazing, and it's not just like, hey, you get to treat and you get to have one. It's like over and over and over.
No, and it's like the thing you have with every meal or in between meals. Like, I get that. Like, that's like, again, it's one of those things. I'm not trying to deflect from what you're saying, but I do think.
Oh, you're arguing. You want a dad's debate?
Yeah, let's do this. Boom. It's one of those things that I hear so frequently that I feel like people are doing that scare tactic, the sky is falling type thing. I'm like, no, there's certain types of things that are okay and in moderation. Like, that's the deal. It's like, don't just drink water and suck on a lemon and call it a night, like, because your kids aren't going to respond to that. So
why not?
I don't think they would. But maybe
if they don't know any different, though,
keep them in a cave.
Right.
That's all you have to do.
No, but I that's part of it also is it's making good choices of,
yes.
In general, the excess, you never, it would be so wonderful if people just eliminate everything that's bad. But, when you know that things are bad, like you said, the moderation has to occur.
And the thing is, some of the stuff isn't bad. It's only bad when you do too much of it.
Well, it's bad. Yes, it's not. But it might, I agree. But relative to other things, it might be bad.
Sure.
You can make a choice. Like, you could have a French fry or a potato. They're essentially the same, similar things, right, but one's a little healthier than the other.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I mean. It's like yes, they're both juice.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I'll get off of this after this, but like salt, for example, a lot of people freak out about salt, and I get why, because it's a lot of things are linked to high blood pressure, etc. So it's the salt by itself and in and of itself isn't bad. You need salt in your body.
Right.
And so if you're not getting any salt, you will die.
Right.
But if you do too much of it,
sure,
you're going to have problems. And
but there's really no shortage of sugar for children.
No. Right. Exactly. You could eat anything. Like you said,
because here's what I said, like, let's say you're of the mindset, it's like, your family has desserts, or, there's other snacks, or your children are eating fruit or whatever. They just don't need it.
Right.
That's maybe you're saying, like, if they had nothing, no sugar, no nothing, okay. Yeah, a juice is not a bad thing to have, like, one glass or something. But that's what I'm saying is, like, the excess is horrible. It's not something that's needed. And
Correct.
So in those instances, you can give them water.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Water.
Yeah. And there's a reason it tastes really good.
Right.
The juice tastes really good.
It wants to be
consumed. Because there's a lot of sugar in it. So just give them water, guys.
Sure.
All right. So the second one, protein. Now, you can over protein for kids. Kids don't need, they don't need to be taking protein shakes and things like that, But there's some people who think
creatine for kids.
Now, if they're not having any types of protein, then sure. I mean, because even like, medical stuff, medical foods, like somebody would get through like a feeding tube, has protein in it because it's part of the building blocks of the body.
Right.
So protein helps build cells. It helps muscle growth. It also can help the immune system. It repairs tissue, etc. So protein in your diet is important. And so kind of what I said is try to have a little bit of protein with most or every meal. And so as an example, when your child has just a huge bowl of pasta, there's no protein.
It's just all carbohydrates.
For the most part. It's just all carbohydrates and sugars and whatever.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Correct. Then you have some protein.
Yeah.
So, some common proteins that kids can have: eggs, cheese, peanut butter, And then, of course, like meats and steaks, fish, chicken, beans. Yes, all that stuff. So you're going to want to try to combat it. And then what you gave is a perfect example. Spaghetti with some meatballs, or whatever you're having, just add a little bit to it that you can have a little bit of protein with that.
I read somewhere or heard somewhere, I don't know. It was like a handful, like a fistful of protein should be included.
Yeah, it depends on your weight.
Yeah, it depends on what you, and again, it depends your kids too. It's something different. But, and then the vegetarian alternatives would be like beans and mid legumes or in some level and other things, maybe even certain tofu or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point. I do agree with that. Like that's a big, huge part of the building blocks.
It's a building block. And, a child that's going to just have, maybe, well, okay, I was going to say quesadillas, at least they're having cheese, but, who's just eating like tortillas and bread and pasta.
Yeah.
There's not a lot there to help them build muscle and help them, build their body and grow. Yeah. And so that's just something to keep in mind that you're going to want to do that. Now, like I said, they don't need to be having like protein shake supplements and so much because the body can only, a young child's body can only process so much protein.
Yeah.
So there's actually such thing as excess protein, but a little bit's good. A little bit is good with each meal.
Yeah.
So that's another one. The third one, which brings us to the sponsor and the kind of the impetus for this, is a multivitamin. Okay. A multivitamin is really, really good for kids. And part of that is because oftentimes the kid's diet is not very,
well-rounded.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
And it's somewhat limited, or they don't have a lot of desire to eat certain things, and so a multivitamin can often give them that stuff that they simply just won't get because they're not consuming things.
Do you think that there are alternatives to a vitamin in terms of like what kind of foods you can get to get those vitamins?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
but in case you can't.
Well, yeah, if your child, I'm guessing, let's say as an example, like they're not eating that much fish, like they may not like salmon, they may not like, cod or whatever, so giving them some omega-3 fish oil might be a little difficult. So, same thing with vitamin D, unless they're going to take the pill or they're going to eat, broccoli, or they're going to eat, these other foods, a lot of greens and that kind of, they're just not going to get it.
Yeah.
So unless you're forcing them to eat it, or you can figure out, and we'll talk about another way to get them to eat that stuff.
Yeah.
But Smarty Pants, so they were a sponsor. Like I said, they have these gummies, and I don't want to say they're like candy, but they kind of seem like it is. Yeah. I don't want to, because they're a sponsor. They don't want to be known that way.
Of course not.
But that's why it's attractive to the kids, is because it tastes good.
Yeah.
There is a small amount of organic cane sugar, which is it's much healthier than the white table sugar.
Yeah.
But like I said, vitamin D3, vitamin B12, helps with mental focus and energy. There's also folate, which helps like the replication of DNA in your cells. So, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff here that, like I said, your kids aren't going to get unless they're eating a huge variety of foods.
Right.
So it's really easy, to just give them a couple vitamins each day. They love it. My kids, seriously, they were eating these before they were a sponsor. So we had these. We had Smarty Pants vitamins. They love them. And of course, now as a sponsor, they love them
even more.
More.
You're getting them for free now.
Well, yeah, there's a little bit of a perk.
Even more.
There's a little bit of a perk. Yeah. And then also they have products for different people in the family too. So actually, I just had shown I'm taking the adult multivitamin. They have ones for women, ones for teens, and then they have different kinds for kids as well. So there's a huge menu of different kinds.
There's a good question I had. You have men's vitamins and women's vitamins, and I understand there's differences there. So
we're a little different.
Up until slightly different. This is Mars and Venus are involved somehow. Yeah. But like what? They don't have girls' vitamins and boys' vitamins.
No, and I think even...
Do you think up to a certain point, like...
You'd probably have to talk with a representative of them.
No, I'm not, well, maybe not Smarty Pants per se, but like, even in general, like do boys and girls grow up pretty much the same, needing the same things up until a certain point?
I think so. It's then probably puberty or some other things like
puberty.
Yeah, like, I mean, I know like women may have a greater need for iron, or like other minerals that, can happen during their monthly cycle or so.
Yeah.
There's different requirements that makes sense. That guys have and that women do. So that's not an area of expertise of mine.
You won't claim to be an expert? No, we talk about
I know. Normally I just claim to be an expert in everything, but that one I'm not. So So a multivitamin, like I said, really easy to get that. Recommend that as that they should be having. Number 4, fruit. So this comes to your the thing that you were talking about. Fruit is a great source of fiber. It is healthier. It's healthy energy, and it's a good substitute instead of the bad sugar.
Right.
For sure. It's better to have an apple than apple juice in most cases, unless it's a very pure apple juice.
Sure.
But if you look on the aisle where the juice is, the organic, healthy, 100% juice thing is not necessarily the one that's always being purchased because, one, it's much more expensive.
Way more expensive, yeah.
So, that typically is also an issue. Fruit has a lot of vitamins and minerals that support child development. And the reality, too, is kids love fruit because it tastes good.
Yeah, it has that natural sweetness to it that kids are drawn to. And I noticed recently that McDonald's serves like apple slices instead of certain things now with their meals. So I think even fast food is trying to get hip to that. I'm not saying I'd go to McDonald's over just getting an apple.
Right.
I will say, too, I remember when I was working somewhere and I ate something that was just terrible. I don't know what. It was like some breakfast sandwich that had a lot of grease and just did not agree with me. And I'm like, ugh, felt terrible. And I go, someone have an apple or something? I just want something like fresh in here or something. And someone gave me a Granny Smith apple. I don't normally like Granny Smiths, but I ate it anyway. Felt better immediately. Like it basically cleansed my system. It was just strange. I was like, right after I ate it, I was like, oh.
So here's some other things about sugar. And I recall my wife talking about this because she was involved with pretty much handling the food for our children. It's like, we pureed vegetables and did all these really healthy things with the kids. One of the things I recall that she had mentioned was that introducing fruit too early can ruin the palate because the child then wants those sweet things.
I see.
So you try to get them,
like baby food?
Correct.
Okay.
So like, when your child starts eating strawberries, they're not going to want carrot. Or actually, not even carrot. Yeah, they're not going to want the peas.
What's this peas mix?
Because the strawberries are way better.
These are much prettier.
Right.
They taste way better.
Totally.
Why am I not eating these?
Right. So it does, it does have an effect on us. So you have to sort of introduce all these other foods. To do that. One of the tips that I have also is making fruit a dessert. So fruit, instead of ice cream, cookies, or other bad sugars, offer fruit as the after meal delight.
Yeah.
And introduce that to your kids.
You're not a very fun dad, are you?
No, I am.
I'm only kidding. But no, Yo Nanas.
Because it is correct.
We did that thing about that like 100 episodes ago.
Yeah. So something that is very true, because they do this with diets, is that if you crave sugar, people crave sweets and they want to have horrible food for you.
Right.
You make a fruit smoothie or you eat fruit.
Yeah.
And that sugar can help that craving.
Yeah.
And so what happens then is, for children that crave the dessert, or you have the routine of having dessert all the time, you can make the fruit part of the dessert.
Yeah, I like that. I also like the idea.
But no, to answer your question, I'm not that.
I like the idea of having the smoothie too, because it's basically, you can combine a couple fruits,
right,
and make it even a cooler fruit, and it's like you're still getting all the vitamins and the stuff that comes from it.
Totally,
you're just blending it together.
But you brought up something interesting, and this is sort of whether it's cultural or what, but we associate, and even just that's your comment, associated dessert with fun and nice and a good time and it's very interesting because we all do that.
Yep.
And we all think of it that way. So if you're starting off with your children at a very young age and reframing what that is, and it's not to say like, let's say in our house, we may not keep that stuff in our house, but then I don't police it as much when they're going out to a party.
For sure.
So it's like, they're having cake, they're having ice cream, whatever. It's just more when you're in the house, that's not one of the options. But if you want to have the dessert fruit, you can, you know that. And so what happens is then you start to manage that a little bit differently. And so, but it is interesting because we equate that with like the fun and it's like having sugar. And that's because as a kid, that's what we did. Like sugar to us was fun.
Yeah.
It's, it's the ice cream man.
Yeah.
It's going to the store. I remember going to the store and buying buying candy and like riding my bike and
going to the corner store, getting,
totally.
Yeah.
And so there's those associations with that.
For sure.
That are very, very deep.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. It's a really great point.
It's hard to break.
Yeah.
And then finally, number 5, good old vegetables. So we all know vegetables are good for us.
Sure.
So, like fruits, they contain a lot of vitamins and minerals. But here's the thing. How do we get our children to eat them when they cringe at the sight of anything green? That's what happens. So one technique is to simply hide them. Yes.
That's what you do to your animals.
You hide vegetables.
You sneak it in there
within the food that you're making.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some examples. And online, there's a ton of recipes if you look for this stuff. You can make pancakes, burgers, pasta. There's a lot of different foods that you can hide vegetables, and you can make the food with vegetables. So
you said pancakes. Do you put it in the batter? Grind it up?
Yeah,
put it in the batter?
You can grind it up. I mean, in fact, there was somebody that was, I believe it was in the meetup, that was talking about like broccoli.
Yeah.
And literally they grinded it up and then put that in the pancake. And, and then of course you have your syrup and you have your other stuff that's bad, but the child's still getting the broccoli, and the vitamins and the minerals and that kind of stuff. So, Jerry Seinfeld's wife, she created the book called Delectably Delicious, I think it was called, or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
And basically that's what it is. It's making muffins with, stuff in it. It's making all kinds of things.
Zucchini muffins and that type of stuff.
Yeah, there's all kinds of recipes. And now online it's exploded. I mean, there's just a ton of things that you can look for to hide those vegetables, and the children don't know. I mean, the fact is, and for a while, if they don't know, it's fine. Yeah. Now, it is a little different when they're like, wow, Dad, your pancakes are not nearly as good as the neighbors.
Yeah. IHOP and your pancakes are distinctly different.
Why are ours green?
Exactly.
Why my pancakes stuck in my teeth? Yeah. Well, my friend's does not. It melts in my mouth. I don't know. I think that's just the nature of the beast.
That's funny. Well, it's when you grew up, and your kids like vegetables. Right?
Some.
I mean, not all, they don't like all the vegetables, but they eat a little bit. They like vegetables probably more so even than the average kid, like cherry tomatoes and broccoli and all that stuff. And I grew up liking textures bother me more than taste.
A lot of kids.
Yeah. So like tomatoes at first I didn't like because of the texture. It's like a runny egg almost.
Right.
And then, but like a broccoli, I always loved them. Always loved broccoli. Yep. So the certain vegetables, I think you can probably ease them into and get them used to the flavor. Some other ones are probably a little more bitter and not so good.
Yeah, you got to start early. Yeah. That's part of the pureeing and having them eat it and stuff. But, we did that episode on the eating and realizing that some of it is genetic. There is some genetic taste that, I was not aware of that a certain amount is really genetic taste buds.
Yeah. My cousin used to tell me cilantro to him tastes like soap. And I was like, oh, it tastes like fine
there's
to me.
A lot of people like that.
But I read somewhere long after that there's a 1 in 4 person will literally taste soap when they eat cilantro.
Yeah.
So it's like that's like a genetic thing. It has nothing to do with it. Whether
that wouldn't taste good.
Right.
So it's very, very interesting. So that's what we have. I thought it would be nice to share that. We also, like I said, I have the video that we did on Dad University on YouTube. But I want to thank Smarty Pants Vitamins for supporting both Dudes to Dads and Dad University. And we want to hear from you too. Do you have any difficulties with your kids and getting them to eat some of these things or some of the things we talked about?
Yeah.
Or just child nutrition questions in general? We'd love to hear about that. And Alan, if they have questions, what should they do?
They should email us, podcast@dudesadads.com. Go to all social media networks, Twitter @dudesadads, Facebook dudesadads.com. Go to YouTube and sign up for and subscribe to Dad University, and also Dudes to Dads is on there. And then please go to iTunes and or Stitcher and or Google Play and wherever you get your podcasting and subscribe to those networks and channels. And we would love to hear some feedback there. Leave us some reviews, 5 stars or thumbs up or whatever you want to say. We would really appreciate that. It helps perpetuate the show.
Right on. Anything else?
That's it.
You're going to go eat some broccoli?
I'm going to go eat some broccoli, man.
And drink some water.
Of course.
All right. On behalf of Alan and I'd say always on behalf of Alan and myself. That doesn't make sense, does it?
That's all right.
Want to thank you as always.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.
See you next time.